Welcome to the Vault XL. This is live number 2. Please check out the YouTube queue for my last live stream pertaining to Wendy Williams, what will become of her. And I did a part 1 last night, 2 live streams pertaining to Wendy Williams and the debacle of her care, guardianship, fraud, very weird, wicked tale. Where is she? What is the state of her health care? Will the guardianship be lifted? Will it be handed over to a relative? Please check out the said content. And when I get an update pertaining to the state of Wendy Williams, I will bring you an update. But let's get down to some very pressing news with one of pertaining to a young man who is no longer alive. He unalived himself in front of the Israeli embassy. We're going to talk about that. And the second part of this live stream is pertaining to a 76-year-old African-American grandmother who killed her grandson. Was it self-defense? Did she have dementia? Both? What happened? Argument, disagreement, wanted him out of her house, tired of dealing with them? What was going on with this grandmother? Should she have been arrested? Number 1. We're going to get down to business. Part 2 of this live stream. And if you'd like to donate to this great network, $sign Big Angie 129 Cash App. Stickers and chats are welcome during the live stream. I've not kept up with what has been going on abroad just because I'm just tired of hearing about America being involved in different confrontations with other countries and confrontations of countries with other countries. So I've kind of checked out of the latest of nonsense that went on with the Ukraine and everything. I've just had enough. And then this Palestine debacle. But I'm going to bring you this information because we're going to dig into what happened to this young man. Why did he unalive himself? What was the message he was trying to send to the general public? Did he have any mental care issues? His upbringing. I heard that he was, I believe, born or raised in Massachusetts. We're going to get into all of that. Let's hear what the news has to say to what happened a few days ago. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to the Vault XL. NBC4 Washington is the source.
Good morning. Welcome to News 4 Midday. I'm Melissa Millay. We are learning more this morning about a man who set himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy in the district. He was a member of the U.S. Air Force. Detectives say he was repeatedly shouting, "Free Palestine."
I've been here.
News 4's Juliana Valencia has the latest. That's right. This morning we found out the airman has died. D.C. police confirm his name is Aaron Bushnell. He was 25 years old from San Antonio, Texas. And before Bushnell set himself on fire, he started streaming on Twitch. The video is too graphic to share, but in it, you see him in his military fatigues, calmly walking up to the Israeli embassy right here. And as he's doing so, he says he's about to engage in an extreme act of protest.
A deadly protest against what a U.S. airman calls an act of genocide against the Palestinian people. The airman puts on his military patrol cap and proceeded to dump liquid from a water bottle over his head and light himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy. In the video, he repeatedly shouts, "Free Palestine," after lighting the fire. He burns for about a minute and collapses on the ground before Secret Service officers begin to extinguish the fire. This happened around 1 p.m. Sunday. D.C. police assisting U.S. Secret Service officers. Police said their bomb squad was called to check the airman's car, but no hazardous material was found. The Air Force confirms he was active duty, and according to his LinkedIn page, he recently attended the University of Maryland Global Campus. The incident happened as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu seeks cabinet approval for a military operation in the southern Gazan city of Rafah, while a temporary ceasefire deal is being negotiated. Israel has adamantly denied allegations of genocide and says it is carrying out operations in accordance with international law in the Israel-Hamas war.
D.C. police said this morning that Bushnell died at a local hospital. Meantime, their investigation into this incident is ongoing. Outside the Israeli embassy, Juliana Valencia, News 4.
All right. Lordy. Protests, the war. As I said, I have not researched anything about the war since last year. I was trying to get an understanding of it last year, reading who said what, who did what, who struck whom first. I try not to even get into it because it's too much. When you start trying to dissect who started what, it becomes a war of worlds and commentary. And I really don't like getting into anything pertaining to countries going to war, politics. Everybody knows how I feel about talking about politics and countries going to war with one another. As I said, I did research months ago just for my personal self, just to try to stay, abreast of what was going on in the world. But I have not spoken publicly about it. And frankly, I'm not going to speak on what is going on over there just because I don't want to. My commentary is about why he did this to himself and what was his message to the world in unaliving himself. Okay? I'm going to play you content, then I'm going to read you the information I've gotten about his anarchist past with this religious sect, and if that has any bearing on this decision that he made. And for some reason, I kept thinking it was abroad. Because that's why I wasn't paying attention. So this happened here in the United States. This is crazy to me, but people do what they want. It's strange that this man would do this, considering I don't think he has a Palestinian background. I don't know. Does he know anyone from Palestine? What? Is it because he didn't want to fight in the war? We're going to dissect all of that. Why do this to yourself? Was there any other way that you could have sent a message to the universe about your feelings about what's going on abroad, and also being in the service? As you hear, he was an active member of the United States, also going to college. Why? Why do this? I just don't understand it. Let's get commentary from the public. Right now, the Idaho versus Brian Korberger hearing is transpiring. I will get to that a little bit later. Another subject I hate touching on, but it's neither here nor there. Local activist reacts to San Antonio airman who died after setting himself on fire outside of the Israeli embassy. KENS 5 San Antonio is the source of this information. Thank you for joining me. Wow, wow, wow. What a mess. And please be respectful of your comments.
Of a U.S. airman based here in San Antonio.
So investigators say on Sunday, the active service member set himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy in protest of the war in Gaza.
KENS 5 reporter Megan Dana joins us live with brand new details we're learning tonight. Megan?
Well, EC's Henry, the Air Force confirmed to CBS News tonight that the 25-year-old was a cyber defense operations specialist
Calm down.
At Air Force Base. He had moved to San Antonio in
Let me make this clear. I rarely talk about politics. I rarely talk about any countries going to war. If you cannot contain yourself, I'm telling you, I will block you. I'm telling you right now, because I'm not putting up with any foolishness during this live stream. I'm here to talk about what was wrong with this young man and what led him to unalive himself. So I'm telling you now, if you can't contain yourself, please remove yourself from the chat, okay? We're all entitled to our opinion, but I'm not going to allow any foolishness in the chat because I'm not here to argue politics. I'm not here to argue what is going on abroad. I'm not there. I don't know what's going on over there. I try to not even stay abreast because it becomes redundant to me. And then, like I said, it becomes a fight of this person against this person, words against words. And that's just something I don't like indulging in. Because I have a problem right now with America being involved in foreign affairs. It's redundant. That's redundant. And that's my personal opinion. There comes a time when other people need to help out their other neighbors. Because this behavior of us being involved in things, it can't go on. Also, with other countries, I'm going to say this. You all need to learn how to resolve your issues amongst yourselves without interference from outsiders. And you need to learn how to get along. The dictatorship of the mind needs to cease because we will continue to have these problems with countries going to war over the stupidest of stuff that happened 50, 60 years ago. People holding grudges. That's really what a lot of these wars are about. Old grudges. Somebody don't like this part of the region, or somebody thought they owned this part of the region. All that shit with the Ukraine. Russia's feeling like they own this. This is their land. They're mad because the people party. It's ridiculous. Now we have a man who's unalived himself for what he felt was genocide. I'm not here to argue his opinion. He's not even here to defend himself. I'm just saying I don't want any foolishness in that chat.
from Massachusetts for basic training.
It certainly is a tragic event. We do extend our condolences to the Airman'S family.
This is 25-year-old Airman Aaron Bushnell. This photo was taken from his LinkedIn profile, which is now memorialized. Washington, D.C. Metro Police say on Sunday, outside the Israeli embassy, Bushnell poured an unknown liquid on himself and ignited it. D.C. police say he eventually collapsed and was consumed by the fire. Video surfaced on social media shows Bushnell saying he would, quote, no longer be complicit in genocide before setting himself on fire. Local pro-Palestine activist Bilal Deary watched the video.
It was awful. It was really, really awful.
According to the Gaza Health Ministry, since the start of the Israel-Hamas war, nearly 30,000 people have been killed in Gaza, 2/3 of them women and children. This is the second time someone has set themselves on fire outside an Israeli facility in the U.S. since the conflict.
It's hard to see.
Repeat that again.
Hamas war, nearly 30,000 people have been killed in Gaza, 2/3 of them women and children. This is the second time someone has set themselves on fire outside an Israeli facility in the U.S. since the conflict.
It's hard to see someone being driven to feel like that's needed in order to bring more attention to the situation.
Deary says he's heartbroken for Bushnell's family. He says he won't stop speaking out, calling for a ceasefire.
Our politicians are just not listening to us. You know, they don't hear us.
And just today, the president said that he hopes that a ceasefire and hostage deal between Israel and Hamas will happen early next week. Reporting live, Megan Reyna, KINS 5.
Thank you, Megan.
He was a defense operations specialist at Lackland Air Force Base. CBS News gave that commentary. San Antonio, if you are curious to the information. Let's go to News Nation. Why did U.S. Airman set himself on fire outside of Israeli embassy? Thank you for joining me.
There's no other words for it.
The basic question is this, and you've heard it many times, and you've been thinking about it constantly. I know you. It's been too much for too long. You're never going to get all of Hamas. You're not going to fill in the tunnels, even though nobody believes they're as extensive as reported. This has to stop. What's the response?
It'll stop once Hamas stops, once Hamas surrenders, once Hamas gives up the hostages. Before that, Israel literally cannot stop. For us, it's a war of national survival. If Hamas succeeds, if it survives and regains control over Gaza, its own leaders have said again and again, they're going to rearm and launch the next attack. We have hundreds of thousands of displaced people who won't be able to go back to their homes. And virtually every enemy we have in the region, particularly Iran, will conclude that they can attack us with impunity. And when we go to defend ourselves, we'll be slapped with a ceasefire. We won't be able to defend ourselves. So for everyone understands this, it's interesting that in Israel, I understand the trends that are going on in this country. In Israel, we've had protests by the hostage families. We have to be very compassionate about them. We have protests against Netanyahu. We always have protests against Netanyahu, but you haven't not seen not one anti-war protest because Israelis understand that this is a war that has to be fought to the end. And I don't know if I entirely agree with you that the tunnels can't be destroyed and that Hamas can be defeated. I think it can be. The big question is, as you say, what's the cost?
Well, just to be clear, I'm offering a perspective of pushback that's going on. I personally don't know what the extent of the tunnels are. I know that, by all indications, they're very impressive. On the idea of taking out Hamas, I see it as very complicated because, as you know better than I, it's very hard to stop an idea. And it's not just about the men. Right. The men who do it now, they'll be replaced by others. Like we thought we took out Osama bin Laden, that's it. Everything's going to get better.
Somebody else rises
it's only gotten
up.
worse.
Yeah.
My question is, how... So the finesse point on this is we need to stop Hamas. We have to get our hostages back. If Hamas gave back all of the hostages tomorrow, what is the chance that Israel would not have any more military operations within Gaza and would stop what is called the occupation?
Well, certainly Hamas is not going to give up all the hostages. They're going to try to hold on to some.
But if they did?
I think I have suggested publicly in the past that we could do an arrangement similar to what we did with the PLO in Beirut in 1982. We said, get out of the city. We'll put you on a boat. They went off to Tunis. We could take the Hamas terrorists and put them on a boat to Syria or to Libya or wherever they wanted to go. We get the hostages back, and that would end the war. I think the situation is going to remain that we can't let Hamas be in a position to regain control over Gaza. Once again, use Gaza as a launching pad for striking our border communities. That's impossible. Or to firing tens of thousands of rockets at our cities. We can't let that happen. So I think we're trying to achieve two goals. They're very, very difficult to achieve simultaneously. Release the hostages and remove Hamas as a serious threat to the state of Israel.
How is it that Biden is saying, I hope for a deal by Monday, and Bibi all but laughed at that idea?
Yeah, I don't know what basis America is saying this for. And it's not just Netanyahu. Hamas's requirements for the ceasefire would not have been acceptable to any Israeli leader, even leaders from even the far left. They were saying that Israel has to withdraw to the border, basically declare that Hamas wins the war, Israel loses the war. There was even some claims that Israel would have to give Hamas control over the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Imagine this. Right. And Israel would have to release hundreds of Palestinian prisoners from our prisons who have the blood of hundreds of Israelis on their hands. And you'd have to face the families of the people who have been killed by those terrorists. And it's a tremendous incentive to people to commit more terror and to take more hostages. So it's a very, I don't think any Israeli leader, not just Netanyahu, would accept that. Clearly, there's either a breakdown in communication between the Israeli and American mediators, or we have different expectations. My hope is that we can reach some type of ceasefire, but a ceasefire that doesn't impair Israel's fundamental security.
Right. Michael, do you think you and I are discussing this 8 months from now?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think there'll be many other things to discuss. Listen, we're facing a situation up north where now Hezbollah is out firing Hamas in terms of rockets fired every day. They fired 60 rockets at Israel yesterday. Hamas is a tactical threat to the state of Israel. With all the atrocities, with all the rockets, Hamas can't destroy us, but Hezbollah is a strategic threat. It's 100,000 terrorists who have spent the last decade massacring 500,000 Syrians. They got 150,000 rockets that are very accurate. And much heavier, much longer range. That's a strategic threat. They can take us down. And Israel's going to have to address that unless American diplomacy can convince Hezbollah to withdraw its forces from the border. And that's yet to be seen.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com.
All right. An active duty member of the U.S. Air Force has died after he set himself ablaze outside the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., after declaring he will no longer be complicit to genocide. The 25-year-old airman Aaron Bushnell of San Antonio, Texas, died from his injuries. The Metropolitan Department said Monday. Former Israeli ambassador, Former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Michael Oren, joins Cuomo to discuss the act of protest and the future of the Israeli-Hamas war. As I state, I have not stayed in tune to the intertangling of what has been going on abroad. As I said, I did research on my own last year to see how all this came about. Naturally, it was very frustrating trying to read, the long-winded article of how all this began, because naturally, it goes back to history, and it was just frustrating reading. Now we have a man who's American, Caucasian, lived here, I'm assuming, all of his life, no ties to either side, but was in the military, obviously felt some type of way about the war, felt that it was genocide, filmed himself walking in front of, near the building with a camera filming, and then doused himself with a liquid and set himself afire. How did it come to this? You also heard in the commentary, another act of self-mutilation was also done at the Israeli embassy. Was there a better way to get his message across to the world? Could he have just left the military, went AWOL? I put all this on a commentary channel in the comment section. Now, I don't recommend anyone going AWOL, but you understand what I'm saying. Could he have dealt with this in a better fashion than unaliving himself publicly? Because this isn't the message you want to send to the world either, unaliving yourself. Excuse me, because you don't like that something's going on with our United States military government versus what's going on with the countries that are at war. You should not want to take your own life. Life is precious. And God should be the only one that, says, I don't want you here. Although I do believe in the death penalty, but kind of maybe contradict myself. But I'm just saying, that's one thing we've learned for those of us who follow the scripture. You are not supposed to take your own life. And I also learned he comes from a very serious religious background. Don't know who these people are and if they were teaching the book strictly from the Bible or not. But we're going to get into that as well. What in the hell happened? Was he having a mental breakdown? Was he having mental problems? You're going to hear he's talked to someone right before unaliving himself. Did he date? Did he have a girlfriend? What did he have planned for himself besides this? Because this isn't it. I don't recommend anyone doing it. I don't care if you're American or not. You should not be unaliving yourself, period, let alone because of people going to war. Man has been at war with himself since he ate off the tree of life. Once Adam, Eve ate the apple, that's all she wrote. Man has been at war. He's going to stay at war with himself because he's just honoring. And there are better ways of getting the message out. Naturally, you don't have any control, of what's going on abroad, whether you're in the military, government, because you can't tell a person how to think. And that's what people don't seem to understand about why the world is in the shape that it's in. You're trying to control people. You're trying to tell people how to think, what way you think is better. You can't. A lot of these people who grew up in these third world countries, they have been taught to think a certain way. They have been taught to hate, to unalive people, to wreak havoc by hand grenades, missiles. That's all they know. Then the flip side, there are people who see this go on every day and they want more for themselves. They want to stay in their native land. They want to do better. They want to work, eat, be happy, be married, but they can't. So it's a flip of the coin. I'm going to do what was taught, or I'm going to try to do better than what I was taught. It's a choice. But there's certain people you cannot help. And that's what you have here with this war. There's just certain people, there's no reasoning. There's no telling them, hey, what you're doing is incorrect. What you're doing is wrong. What you're doing is, against the code of man. Because like I said, all this had a start. This didn't just pop up. Because wars usually, they just don't pop up. Nobody just goes to war out of the blue. There's been friction. And I believe there was friction beforehand. Because there usually is. They just decide on that one day, okay, we're going to do what we want. We don't care about who gets involved. We don't care who's in the path. And that shows you how honorary man is. Just no respect for life. There's no respect for life. And when you don't even care about your own people, that tells you a lot about a person. Because in the end, to unalive your own people, that means there's something critically wrong with you. All right, so you heard from News Nation. You heard from activists speaking on behalf of the man unaliving himself. Let's now go to the Pentagon. Forbes breaking news is my third source pertaining to this airman taking his own life. Thank you all so much for joining me. Hope you all are well. Hello, Ms. Hagan. How are you?
Yesterday, an active duty service member set himself on fire in front of the Israeli embassy in protest of U.S. support for Israel's operations in Gaza. Has the secretary been briefed on Airman Bushnell, and is he concerned that maybe this airman's actions may indicate that there's a bigger issue within the military as far as U.S. support for this ongoing operation?
Yeah, so the secretary is following the situation. I know the Air Force has confirmed the airman's death. They do plan to provide additional information 24 hours after next of kin notifications are complete. It certainly is a tragic event. We do extend our condolences to the airman's family. In terms of the incident itself, Tara, as you know, the DC Metropolitan Police Department has the lead for responding to questions about that incident. So anything on that, I'd have to refer you to them.
Is the secretary concerned that this might indicate that there's a deeper issue, maybe U.S. military personnel being concerned about how weapons and support for Israel is being used on civilians in Gaza?
No, put on a sweater.
Well, from a Department of Defense standpoint, since Hamas's brutal attacks on October 7th, we've been focused on the 4 key areas that the secretary set out from the onset. That's protecting U.S. forces and citizens in the region, supporting Israel's inherent right to defend itself from terrorist attacks, working closely with Israel to support and secure the release of hostages from Hamas, and ensuring that the conflict between Hamas and Israel doesn't escalate into a broader regional conflict. And so those objectives are what continue to inform our approach to the situation in the Middle East. And as we've talked about before, while our support for Israel's inherent right to defend itself is ironclad, we've also continued to actively communicate our expectations that Israel take civilian safety and humanitarian assistance into account into their operations. You see that incorporated into every conversation the secretary has with his counterpart in Israel, as well as other U.S. officials. And we expect them to continue to adhere to the law of armed conflict and international humanitarian law. We'll continue to do that. Jennifer.
Okay. So that was the Pentagon spokesperson, Air Force Major General Pat Ryder, responding to the death of the airman. So basically, the synopsis is that America is aiding Israel in this fight against Hamas. As I said, it's been a while since I've done my research, so I don't want to seem like I'm ignorant up here, but I have not been commenting on the war and I have not been doing any research, but I'm going to give a brief synopsis of what's going on over there, and then we're going to get into his background. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to the Vault Excel. Let's see what the Washington Post has to say about this debacle. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining me. 2-part live, everybody. Key updates. Hostage families begin protest march. Egypt hopes for deals. Oh, God, don't tell me they're going to not let me read this. Hold on. Hostage families begin protest march. Egypt hopes for deals in the next few days. Jordan leads aid airdrops. USAID pledges $53 million for Gazans. Over 100 million Michigan primary votes were uncommitted. What does that mean? Put my glasses on because I don't know how it went. I was trying to get trying to get information so people can understand who are not following the content of why these people are going to war with each other and what this effect happened on the airmen. The march, organized by the Hostages and Missing Families Forum headquarters, began near the site of October 7th attack of the Tribe of Nova Music Festival. It is the second march organized by the Forum. The first in November also came amid negotiations over hostage release and ceasefire deal. Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh said Wednesday that the group has shown flexibility and willingness in the negotiations so far. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu previously accused Hamas of making delusional demands, and he said Tuesday that Israel would ultimately continue the campaign until total victory. Okay, let's see. At least 29,954 people have been killed in Gaza and 70,325 injured since the war began, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, which does not distinguish between civilians and combatants. Israel estimates that about 1,200 people were killed in Hamas' October 7th attack and says 242 soldiers have been killed since the start of its military operation in Gaza. Okay. Oh, Lordy. What a mess. What a mess. Families of Israeli hostages began a 4-day march to Jerusalem on Wednesday, demanding that no one should be left behind in the Gaza Strip. As negotiations continue on a potential deal to pause fighting in Gaza in exchange for the release of more hostages, Israel and Hamas have downplayed progress on a deal, but President Biden has expressed hope that a weeks-long ceasefire could start as soon as next week. So now we're on an issue about hostages. Okay. So a family is speaking about what's going on abroad. To leave their home, the Idris family has to navigate an obstacle course. This is our secret way, said Firoz Idris, 57, gesturing toward the 12-foot ladder that leads over a guard wall and into the basement of a neighboring building. After 2 flights of stairs, a door opens into the street. Israeli military blocked off the house in Hebron with razor wire earlier this month, pinning in around 20 members of the extended family. Idris said he doesn't know why. The Israel Defense Forces said he was not aware of razor wire being placed outside his home or others on the street since Hamas' deadly attack on communities around Gaza on October 7th. I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding everything. So Hamas attacked the communities around Gaza October 7th. Israel has intensified its military occupation of the West Bank through arrests, raids, and crippling restrictions on movement. New orange gates dot the roads, cutting off almost all entrances to Palestinian villages. Okay, here we go. And towns, according to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Since October 7th, a total of 45 gates have been added across the West Bank, OSHA said, making a total of 214. Earthen mounds, concrete roadblocks, and ad hoc checkpoints also sever communities from the roads. So Hamas attacked the Gaza area, and then Israel intensified their military occupation of the West Bank. Entrances have been cut off to the Palestinian villages and towns. Gates put up, 45 gates across the West Bank. Lord have mercy. Washington Post is the source of this information. Will there be a ceasefire? Will they release the hostages? What in the hell is going on? I just don't understand. But this goes back to what I said earlier. All this is ongoing friction that has been around. That's the problem with these countries going to war with each other. It's ongoing friction that doesn't seem to cease for whatever reason. And other people, innocent people, get caught in the shenanigans of it all, the buffoonery of it all. And somebody ends up perishing because somebody wants control of something. It's always about control. I just don't understand it. I just don't understand. That's why I don't like talking about countries going to war and stuff, because it just gets ridiculous. TheGuardian.com is the source. Aaron Bushnell also grew up in a strict religious sect, the Community of Jesus, whose members would often join the military. This was uploaded Tuesday, February 27, 2024. A uniformed airman who burned himself to death to protest over the U.S.'s role in Israel's military strikes in Gaza was an anarchist who grew up in a strict religious sect with links to a school in Canada that controlled, intimidated, and humiliated students, it was reported on Tuesday. Aaron Bushnell, an active duty U.S. Air Force senior airman from San Antonio, Texas, died in a hospital on Sunday several hours after he doused himself in a flammable liquid and set himself alight outside the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. Bushnell, 25, live streamed the self-immolation on the social media platform Twitch, declaring he will no longer be complicit in genocide and shouting "Free Palestine" as he started the fire. Less than 2 weeks before the episode, Bushnell and a friend spoke by phone about what sacrifices were needed for them to be effective as anarchists, the Washington Post reported on Monday, having spoken with several people who knew them. And it's just the truth, this information they gave to the Washington Post. Bushnell did not mention anything violent or self-sacrificial during the call, the Post said, citing the friend. But on Sunday morning, just before setting himself on fire at about 1 p.m. outside the embassy on International Drive, he texted the friend, whom the Post did not name to protect his anonymity. "I hope you'll understand. I love you," Bushnell wrote. "This doesn't even make sense, but I feel like I'm going to miss you." That's kind of a weird statement. But I feel like I'm going to miss you. It's weird. He also sent the friend a copy of his will, the newspaper added. In the will, Bushnell gave his pet cat to a neighbor and root beers in his fridge to a friend. So who's the friend that he gave the root beer to? They live in the building. They came to pick it up. He took it to them. What? Where is his family? Why is he sending his friend a will? Does he have family, a support system? Parents alive? Who raised him? Married, unmarried, divorced, brothers, sisters, girlfriend, dating, boyfriend, what? What happened to this young man? Besides, this war. The message. Unalive yourself because you don't agree with something. Same. According to the Air Force, Bushnell was a cyber defense operations specialist with the 53rd First Intelligence Support Squadron, if I'm saying that right, at Joint Base San Antonio. He had been on active duty since May 2020, and he was set for discharge in May after a 4-year term of duty. This is one of the questions I asked. Why not just leave? Get out of the military. He only had a few months left. He was set for discharge in May after a 4-year term of duty. Why not have come out and voiced your opinion about this war free and clear, unobligated? Because in the end, like I said, no matter what your opinion is, whether you live here, Israel, London, New York, wherever, there's not very much you can do because you cannot control other entities. We don't have control over what goes on in America, and we're United States citizens. We're told to vote, to voice our opinion. But it does not mean when you vote for somebody, they're going to do what you want. A person gets 1 million votes, 200,000 votes, whatever. They don't just do what you think they should do because you voted for them. That's the myth. Make your vote count. Voice your opinion. But it does not mean the person holding that office is going to do what you think they should do. Because as I told you, I'm a liberal, but I do not agree with everything that's going on pertaining to everything a liberal has done and said. That's idiotic thinking. This is why I always tell people I don't like talking about politics and I don't like arguing about independent, Republican, Democrat, because it's ignorant. I don't have to agree with what somebody else does. I don't have to agree with the sitting president or the sitting governor did in New York or Tennessee. I'm a human and I think for myself. This is why I said a lot of people act like zombies out here. This is why I don't like talking about politics, because a lot of people are zombified. You want to identify with a group, and then anytime somebody does something, you're walking around like a damn mummy when you probably haven't even assessed what the fuck is going on. That's why I tell people, I think for Queen. Biden didn't tell me how to think. Obama didn't tell me how to think. A Republican governor of Tennessee don't tell me how to think. Nobody tells me how to think. And I have disagreed with certain things all these people have done. That's what people don't understand. Really, I'm more conservative than I am liberal. But I have a liberal free mind. Do you understand what I'm saying? But I believe in family. I believe in, trying to do right. Have I sinned, done wrong? Of course. That's the whole point. Nobody's perfect. And a lot of people hide behind the status. I'm not trying to get political, but just saying people hide behind the status of a title. But everyone is sinful. Everyone has done wrong. Everyone has talked wrong. And everybody needs to start owning that shit, because this is what's wrong with everybody. Everybody sits up and act like they ain't never done nothing. Everybody's done something they had no business. Just saying. So I don't believe in titles. You want to group yourself with a title and ride that wave, that's your prerogative. But I think for Queen. That's just me personally. Well, let's get back to what the hell I was talking about. All this is nonsense. So he was set to discharge in May after a 4-year term of duty. The Post spoke with some people who described his upbringing on a religious compound in Orleans, Massachusetts, run by a Benedictine monastic religious group called the Community of Jesus. I don't know if I'm saying this right. He was a young man who liked karaoke and the Lord of the Rings, they said. The church, however, has a darker side, at least according to a lawsuit in Canada brought by former students of a now closed Ontario school, where many officials were alleged to be members of the U.S.-based religious group, according to the Post. Those students said, ran a charismatic sect that created an environment of control, intimidation, and humiliation that fostered and inflicted enduring harms on its students. The school and church denied the allegations, but an appeals court last year awarded the former students $10.8 million in Canadian money, $8 million U.S. currency, $8 million U.S. currency. Susan Wilkins, who left the church in 2005 when she said Bushnell was still a member, told the Post it was common for members of the Community of Jesus to join the military from one high control group to another high control group. At the time of his death, Bushnell was making plans to transition back to civilian life. In May, he told another friend, quoted by the Post, that he considered leaving the Air Force early to take a stand against what he saw as state-sponsored violence, especially U.S. support for Israel in Gaza. But he decided he was close enough to the end of his contracted term of duty to be able to stick it out. So that's what I'm trying to question. Why do this? Officials at Southern New Hampshire University said Bushnell had enrolled for an online computer science degree course in August of 2023 and was registered for a new term beginning next week. Okay. I guess that's the end of the article. If you want to support The Guardian, you can donate to help them with this information that's posted online. And once again, if you are considering suicide or know someone that's suicidal, please contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline on 988 chat on 988lifeline.org or text HOME to 741-741 to connect with a crisis counselor. If you're in the UK, Ireland, Samaritans can be contacted on free phone 1116-123 or email joe@samaritans, all lowercase, .org or joe@samaritans.ie. If you are in Australia, the crisis support service lifeline is 13 11 14. Other international helplines can be found at befrienders.org. The Guardian is the source. What is it with this church that he was a part of? Did he still follow the church's reading, teachings? Community of Jesus, run by the Benedictine monastic religious group, Orleans, Massachusetts. This was his upbringing, they said, in a compound in Massachusetts. They say he's from Texas. How did he get to Texas? A lot of questions. I'm getting a headache. I don't mean to be rude, but I'm getting a damn headache. Well, I don't do politics because everybody knows it's really not proper etiquette to talk about politics with strangers, different people, because you can meet people and like them and start talking to them. But as soon as you start talking about religion, politics, the conversation goes way south. And what you thought you liked about a person, you don't like once you start letting them talk politics. It's just the way it is. I've met a lot of nice people, but as soon as they start talking politics, I didn't want to continue talking to them. That's why I don't like talking about politics. Because in the end, it's what I keep telling people, you don't know people. People start talking politics, it's as if the devil stepped in the room, and that's just the truth. And it's not even just about the way, the side that they're swaying with. They start getting off, talking all off center. I've met a lot of people like that. And I will say this, I met a lot of white people who, as soon as they meet you, they have to start talking about Donald Trump. And it's almost like, are you just saying this because I'm African-American and you assume I didn't vote for him, or I'm not Republican, or you understand what I'm saying? I don't like that. That to me, that's rude. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that, just walking up to people. You don't know them from a can of paint. And first thing out your mouth, you're going to start talking about Biden and Obama and Trump. And why you can just speak for yourself? I'm just saying, speak for yourself. That's who I am. I don't need to speak for them. They don't know me anyway, so I don't need to speak for no politician. Whether I agree with what they're doing or not doing, I don't need to speak for them. And they can't speak for me because they don't know me. And in this case with this man, he was about to finish his term of duty in May. Why couldn't he hold out? What was going on with him? Mental breakdown? Did he have mental issues? Bipolar, schizophrenia, radical ideologies, raised radical. As you heard some people saying about the group that he was raised in, they tend to go from one, military style mindset to the next. They would normally join the military. But see, sometimes you have to ask yourself about those certain type of people that navigate like this. They've been taught a certain way, groomed a certain way, and they like to say, go join the military. But then, as you see, this guy joined the military, he realized it wasn't for him. He didn't like what was going on. And that's the thing about the military. You're going to be doing a whole lot of something you don't like. No matter if you're political or not, religious or not. You're going to be asked to do some things you may not agree with mentally, spiritually, physically. And obviously, that happened to him, Mr. Bushnell. So he should have stuck it out. He was here in the United States. He wasn't even over there fighting. That's why I kept thinking this happened abroad. Because, see, I didn't open the information up that he had done it here in the United States. I thought this happened overseas somewhere. I was like, well, what the hell? And now you hear he was here and kills himself in the United States. This is crazy to me. So what the hell was going on with him? Why couldn't he have went and got help, talked to somebody, made a sound decision? Come May, I'm done with the military. I'm going to be a voice for whomever, this group, that group. You don't have to kill yourself. You were more beneficial alive than dead. Killing yourself for a cause makes no sense. And I don't know who told a human being that unaliving yourself would help a cause. Doesn't help a cause. And as you heard in the commentary with Cuomo, as quick as you disband a group, so you think another group rises up doing the same thing those people left off doing. That's all you're seeing right now in these third world countries is a repeat of what has been going on for at least 60, 70 years. Tyrancy, tyrant behavior, lack of empathy. That's all. I want this my way. You either join or you don't. You get runt over, as we say in the street. Runt over, tough. It's my way or the highway. That's all that's been going on here in the United States, Canada, UK, Israel, Palestine, Africa. It's all the same. I do what I want when I want. And that's the problem. I want this piece of land. I don't like this man. I don't like this country. I don't like what they said. I don't like their people. That's the one thing I never could understand about third world countries. If you've noticed, they all look alike. Look alike, sound alike, same skin tone, same hair color, but they don't like each other. That is the most unique thing I've seen when it comes to countries going to war with one another. You look just a damn like, but you don't like that group of people. You don't like that country. But another group of people such as us, we look at you and we can't tell the difference. Do you understand? We can't tell you apart. And you can't really tell yourselves apart probably. But you've been groomed and conditioned to hate someone. See, all this stuff comes from hate and greed. And then the children are groomed to think a certain way. Then they become adults who then continue to think that certain way. Then they have children. So what you're having is just a generational curse of ignorance. And everyone's thinking he or she is right in invading territory, seizing of properties, demolishing properties, land, unaliving people to make a point. And you either agree or disagree. Because I know when I was reading about the war when it first started last year, I was utterly confused. Trying to go down, to read the long criteria of how it all became and the ill will between the people. And I was just like, what the hell am I reading? So it's almost like, well, who am I siding with? Am I supposed to be siding with someone? You understand what I'm saying? Because it was so winded of how it all began. And there's certain countries who've gone to war the past couple of years. I read the bio on how it all started because there's always a backdrop. That's what people don't understand. There's always a backdrop of how it all began. You're only hearing, oh, it popped off. They threw a grenade. They threw a missile. Oh, it's way deeper than that. It's always something that happened a year ago, 20 years ago, and they're still holding on to that animosity. That's what you see here. Just ill will. That's just now exacerbated of taking over the people's land, guarding, building barriers so people can't move about, taking of hostages. I did it because I could. And now you have this man who feels like, people are being unalived, tortured, so on and so forth, no freedom to move, demolishing of homes, buildings, so on and so forth, for whatever reason. And he's angry about this, and he decides to take his own life, which is so barbaric to me. What they're doing over there is already barbaric. And now you sit here on U.S. soil and take your own life. It's like, why would you do this to yourself? That's why I would like to know more about his upbringing. Does he have parents that are alive? Did he speak with them? Did he have a relationship with them? His siblings? Was he dating anyone? Did he have any type of identity issues? Did he ever talk to anybody? Did he ever have counseling as a child? Did he have counseling for what he was dealing with up until his death? Why do this when you could have been more pivotal alive than deceased? Now you're just a number and a grave marker. This is terrible. You're just going to be a grave marker. And there'll be some people who will speak kindly of you, talk about what type of person you were, a cat that you gave away. Then there might be some people who have something negative to say. But in the end, you're no longer here. And you could have been a voice above the ground instead of a voice under the ground. And that to me was a horrible death because he died at the hospital. They didn't say, oh, he was pronounced dead at the scene. So imagine dousing yourself with a liquid, set yourself ablaze, standing there for this cause that you believe in, for people who don't know you from a can of paint, the people who are fighting the war who you think are at wrong, they don't care about you unaliving yourself, and you're suffering until aid is rendered to get you on a stretcher, to get you to the hospital, to try to preserve your life. This is crazy to me. No one should kill themselves, period. I don't care what you're going through. I don't care if you committed a crime. I don't care if you unalive somebody. You're fighting for a political cause. You're fighting because you got caught in something fraudulent. Stand account. Stand in the gap. Because you did what you did. You felt the way you felt for whatever reason. Why you want to kill yourself? And this is terrible to me, that this man would feel this way about whatever going on abroad, that he would take his own life when he could, as I said, fought for the cause breathing. And somebody should have said to him, you know, he may not have said, I'm going to take my own life, because they said he didn't never say anything sacrificial in his commentary to the friend. But I'm wondering if someone may have thought, his conversation seems a little bit off. I need to check in on him or get somebody to check on him. See, who knows? Because if he wasn't talking about killing himself or hurting anybody else, maybe nobody thought anything about it, just that he seemed conflicted. So what was maybe a conflicted conversation has now led to this man unaliving himself in public on government property and then dying at the hospital. And now somebody has to bury him, which 9 times out of 10, I'm assuming it'll be the government, the military. He'll have a military funeral. And imagine that. Imagine the people who will carry the flag and all that. Will they be in agreement? Because I'm sure there's some military people and regular civilians probably thinking, why the hell are you unaliving yourself? Because we're at war with these people or we're helping aid the Israeli people, whatever. Why you want to kill yourself for that? I'm betting you there's some people right here in the United States that feel like what he did was wrong, foolish, selfish, because unaliving yourself is selfish because you leave people behind to mourn you, leave people behind to bury you, so on and so forth, grieve. But there are probably people in the military thinking, this is a fool, an idiot. He knew the rule. He knew what we do. We go to war. Don't mean we agree with why we're going to war. The casualties that they're going to come from us going to war. But it's a part of being in the military is what you sign up for. And as I said, I'm not here to say what's going on over there is right. But what I'm saying is he knew joining the military, what comes with being in the military itself, whether you're over there in Israel or you're in the UK or you're in South Africa, you're over wherever, you know the drill. So that's what I don't understand. If you had conflict about people losing their lives in war, the military should have been the last place he should have joined. That's my personal opinion. Second topic of the hour. Woo, hot butter mess, everybody. Hot butter mess. Going to go back over to YouTube play you this information. This is conversation number 2 during this live stream. This is my second live for the evening. Check out the earlier live pertaining to Wendy Williams. That's a part 2 conversation. The first conversation was last night. So I have 2 videos pertaining to Wendy Williams. And this live that you're listening to is live number 2 for today. Thank you for joining me. Let's get down to business. Mercy. Prayers to his family, Mr. Bushnell. Lord have mercy. Prayers for our servicemen and women. Prayers for the people abroad, those who have perished, because I don't wish any harm to anyone. A lot of those people probably don't like living over in those third world countries. They don't have a choice. They can't get out. They don't have money to leave, go to school, get a visa, go to somewhere else. So let's pray for those people over there, overseas, that are enduring this war. And also I may bring you content pertaining to an Amish woman that was found dead in rural Pennsylvania. This was uploaded 8 hours ago. I'll keep an update on my community channel pertaining to that. Let's see, where's my story about the old lady? Well, I guess I have to go back to the article. Sorry about that. I keep a little treasure trove of content. Oh, Lordy. Lip Lock said she hadn't heard anything about it. Hippie said, what you mean y'all hadn't heard anything about it? What do you mean? Fox10tv.com is the source. This is conversation number 2, everybody. Let's see if this article will load up. This was published January 2nd, 2024. This is a crime that took place back in November 2023. Just bringing you the latest.
Grandson made an appearance in court today for a preliminary hearing. Fox 10 News reporter Stephen Moody is live from Government Plaza with more. Stephen, you were in the courtroom this morning. What can you tell us?
Good morning. We now know that this case is officially headed to the grand jury. Now, back in November, 76-year-old Mary Jordan was arrested and charged with murder following the incident inside of her home in Pritchard. The victim was her grandson, 38-year-old Dana Jordan. According to court testimony by the lieutenant who responded to the scene, Jordan called her granddaughter, the victim's sister, and said she did something that she was going to go to jail for. When the granddaughter asked if she heard her brother, Jordan allegedly said, maybe. Now, when police arrived, they found the victim on the ground with 2 gunshot wounds and a revolver on his chest. According to court testimony, Jordan never directly said what happened, but said if she could take it all back, she would. She also allegedly said people didn't know the victim like she did. Her attorney says she suffers from cognitive issues, and video from the interrogation will show that. That interrogation lasted for about 30 to 40 minutes, according to police. Once again, this case will now go to a grand jury. She remains out of jail. The only condition is that she's not allowed around any guns. Reporting live this morning here in downtown Mobile, Stephen Moody, Fox 10 News.
All right. This is Pritchard, Alabama. If you're curious to the location of the crime, let me read you the set information, and then you can weigh in on your opinion of what I'm going to read to you today. Thank you for joining me. Woo. While in court, you can see a lot of people walking around the lady in court, which is weird in court. She had a bonnet on her head, a black bonnet, and an orange shirt, excuse me. And she was crying, it looks like, or saying something while being taken out by one of the deputies. So what was she saying? She obviously was in distress, and they also say they realized she had cognitive issues. So what was that all about? A Pritchard woman accused of shooting and killing her grandson made an appearance in court Tuesday for a preliminary hearing. Now, remember, this was in January, 1st of January. We now know that this case is officially headed to a grand jury. Back in November, 76-year-old Mary Jordan was arrested and charged with murder following the incident inside of her home in Pritchard. The victim was her grandson, 38-year-old Dana Jordan. According to court testimony by the lieutenant who responded to the scene, Jordan called her granddaughter the victim's sister and said that she did something that she was going to go to jail for. When police arrived, they found the victim on the ground with 2 gunshot wounds and a revolver on his chest. According to court testimony, Jordan never directly said what happened, but said if she could take it all back, she would. She also allegedly said people didn't know the victim like she did. Her attorney said she suffers from cognitive issues, and video from the interrogation will show that. That interrogation lasted for about 30 to 40 minutes, according to the police. I don't come across too many clients that have her level of cognitive issues, so I think that will certainly be explored down the road for what's called a Rule 11, or not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect, her attorney Bucky Thomas said. Once again, this case will now go to a grand jury. She remains out of jail. The only condition of her release is no guns. Whose gun was it found on the chest of the victim? What was really going on in this house? Does this woman have dementia? First stages, full stages? Let's go into the belly of the beast and get more information about Miss Jordan, 76 years of age. I believe I have another video of a family member speaking out pertaining to her arrest. She is now out on bond, everybody. Why is it going to the grand jury? What did they find to say this was homicide? Because in order to arrest her means you saw that this was a deliberate crime. Just saying. Was he bothering her, saying something out of the way to her? Had he done something to her, taken something, pushed her, shoved her? What happened? Also, there's an update pertaining to the Virginia couple feared dead from the Caribbean. Authorities say the suspects have appeared in court, and I believe it's 3 young men that robbed these people and assaulted them. There is also evidence on the boat to show blood. So, worst case scenario, and I do believe bodies have been found pertaining to the victims, and this is a harrowing tale. You have to be careful when you're traveling abroad, staying abroad. I don't know why people don't understand this. You just can't think that nothing bad will happen to you. Naturally, bad things happen here in America. We know this. But when you go abroad, you don't know these people. You don't know the land. Those are poor people, as I said before, with the 2 women who allegedly were accosted at the resort that they docked at off the cruise line. You have to be aware of your faculties when you're out in other countries, because they know that you're foreigners. You are white skinned. They assume you have money. I don't even know how they got on the boat. I guess they just walked up, jumped on the boat. Maybe the boat was docked somewhere. They made them take off into the waters. I won't doubt they threw those people overboard. I don't know if they were found overboard or on dry land. I'll put an update when I get more information pertaining to that crime. Also, the cult leader, Eligio Bishop, is in court. He's been giving the court a run for his money. Court TV has the source pertaining to the allegation of him assaulting one of the members, sexual assaulting one of the cult members. Very wicked. Very, very wicked. And I have updates posted about Wendy Williams and what happened about the documentary if you need updates pertaining to that. Also, an Alabama attorney, there was an explosive device destroyed outside of the Alabama Attorney General's office. Very interesting. And no one was injured. That's also posted to my board. And I also got more information about the guy who unalived himself. Demonstrators call for ceasefire after man sets himself on fire. That's News 4, Washington, on my community page. And then a day ago, Biden shared an update on a potential ceasefire with the Israel-Hamas war. Let's get down to this story here. Fox 10 is the source pertaining to the grandmother. So what, honey? If I offended you, I didn't know how. So what are you talking about, Lolo? You haven't offended me about anything, honey. My response, probably just me saying, talking to people that are already ignorant. That's what I'm saying. You know, some people get all upset and stuff when you're trying to talk to them about politics, or, you know, you're giving your opinion or whatever. Sometimes people are just ignorant. So that's why I tell you why I don't talk about politics with people. I don't like talking about politics because it can get very ignified So I don't do it. But no, nothing you said in the chat offended me. Maybe I didn't make my statement clear. When I was speaking about people that you can talk to, their behavior can become ignorant. Okay. All right. All right. Fox 10 is the source, everybody.
We're hearing from a relative of an elderly woman accused of shooting and killing her grandson.
We first told you about the story last week. 76-year-old Mary Jordan charged with murder in the death of Dana Jordan. Court documents say she has confessed to the crime.
And tonight, a family member is detailing what may have led up to it. Our Ariel Mallory in the studio now.
Ariel, you talked with a woman who says she was the very first person Mary Jordan called after the shooting.
Yeah, that's right, Lenise and Byron. I sat down with Alfay Prince, the cousin to Mary and Dana Jordan. She says she refused to believe what her cousin was telling her, could never see her doing something like this. Well, she quickly realized how real it was when she drove to her house and saw all the police.
We know Mary wouldn't do nothing like that if she didn't have to. That's what I would say. And Mary say, I'm sorry.
Still a lot of questions surrounding what led 76-year-old Mary Jordan to allegedly shoot and kill her grandson, Dana Jordan. Tonight, one family member is speaking out, hoping to answer some of those questions. This was the scene at Mary Jordan's house on Circle Drive Wednesday morning. Crime tapes surrounding the home. Alfay Prince, Jordan's cousin, says she got a call early that morning, hearing something she couldn't believe.
She called me back. And I told you I got to go to the doctor. She said, "Hey, I just killed Dana." I said, "Oh, girl, stop playing. You know you ain't killed nobody."
Prince says she quickly realized it was no joke. Pritchard police say the 38-year-old was shot multiple times. Court documents say Mary was upset with her grandson from the night before. According to Prince, issues between the two started building up long before the shooting.
I don't know what kind of hope he had on Mary, but he had a hope on. And I think she was defending herself. I don't know what it was, but I know every time she talked to me, it was all about money.
Prince says the victim had been living with his grandmother for some time and says Jordan started noticing things missing.
First he got 800. Then he came back for 400 that he took. Then that was the boiling point right there. You taking everything I got.
At one point, Prince couldn't hold back her emotions as she's still in shock at what was happening in her family. She feels Mary tried to do everything she could to help Dana.
Mary just wouldn't do that. I mean, Dana was her favorite. You get that old, you're supposed to relax. And she don't need to relax in that way. Not in jail. For trying to get somebody off of her.
Lord have mercy.
Now, Mary Jordan is still in Metro Jail being held on a $100,000 bond. She's scheduled to appear in court on Wednesday. Now, according to court documents, she does not have a criminal history. Live tonight in the studio, Ariel Mallory, Fox 10 News.
Well, there's an update, of course. That was 3 months ago when this crime took place. The grandson is not alive. He was obviously living with her or coming and going at her home. You hear this relative saying he took $400, $800. She is out on bond. As I read you the article first, she is not to have any weapons in her possession. So as I said earlier, you all right with me, Lolo? Oh, Lord have mercy. Let me get my composure. Because I'm going to go ham on this article right here. I'm going to say this during the live stream. I don't like talking about too much personal things about my own life, but some of you may think of me as a hard nose. And I'll accept that because I will say when you know a person's journey, when you learn a person's journey in life, then you can come to understand why they think and act and say the things that they do, such as how I behave sometimes during the live stream, why sometimes I get emotional during the live streams talking about children, why I sometimes get heated when I talk about certain things. interactions with the people in the chat, crazy commentary that's just sometimes just outright ignorant because of my journey. When you've led the life Queen has led, you would understand why I get tissy sometimes. So excuse me for what I'm going to say. And some of you are not going to agree. I don't care. Because that's the whole point. My journey isn't your journey. Where I am right now in life isn't your journey. And that's what some people don't seem to understand. You have no idea what people go through every day. You don't have any idea what I'm going through now while bringing you this content for this live. Because I don't tell everything on the live stream. So I'm going to put it to you like this. It is time for some of you all to stop catering to motherfuckers. What does a woman almost 80 look like sitting here defending herself? Okay? Whether it was self-defense or she just snapped and went off. Make sure I get the age and everything correct. Hold on one second. Because 76 to me still isn't really older. It's older to some people, of course. But, depends on your interpretation of age. People in their 60s to me are not considered old because I'm just 10 years shy of being considered elderly. Now, will I take an elderly discount? I sure the hell will. 76-year-old Mary Jordan, arrested and charged with the murder of her grandson, Dana Jordan. He was 38 years old. First of all, what the hell was he doing living with her? How long had he been living with her? How long had he been stealing from her? Was he borrowing money from her? Did he ask her for money and she told him no and he stole her money? Was it by a checkbook, credit card? Has he done any improprieties against her name fraudulently? Anybody else? He didn't have no business living with her. You're not taking care of her. You're not aiding her. You don't have no business in her damn house. This is the very reason why I don't care for grown-ups living in houses with other grown-ups. Everybody is different. Everybody lives differently. But you see a lot of crime against the elderly, the disabled, either children or elderly or adults in general. You think you know people, but you don't. I say this all the time during the live stream. You don't know people. Now, some of you are out here, you're catering to grown-ass kids. You're catering to kids who are old enough to be on their own and self-sufficient, and you're letting them stay in your house, eat, slumber, sleep, have sex, don't pay no bills, don't give you no money, don't pay cable, water, lights, mortgage, rent, they don't do shit. And you'll swear for God, oh, it's my kid, this and my grandkid, my niece, my this. You better be very careful who you let in your house. See, all these stories we hear all the time on the news about strangers taking children and raping people and assaulting people and all that. Well, what about your jacked up ass family members that you're catering to? It is time for you to say, no, you can't stay here. You can't bathe here. You can't do shit here. See, I don't know about this type of life because I wasn't afforded the luxury to live with my parents as an 18-year-old. So that's what I'm trying to explain to you. Queen got a journey, been on a rough journey. I wasn't afforded the opportunity to be taken care of as a young person. I didn't get help in life until I was damn near 40 years old. Do you understand what I'm saying? Nobody catered to me. Nobody coddled me. Nobody bought my car. First car I bought, 19 years old, first year out of college. I paid it. I got it painted. I kept it up. The tags, all of that. There was no mommy and daddy to give up money. Did they have it at some point? Of course. A 40-year-old man had no business living with this woman. Like somebody said in one of the articles, where were his parents? Why wasn't he living with his parents? Exactly. Stealing money from an elderly woman. What good luck do you think is going to come to you taking money out of this elderly lady's house? Pocketbook, purse, whatever. Were they arguing? Had he put his hands on her? Was he belligerent, drunk, high, drugs, what? I don't know. Could have been she just got fed up that day, looked at his black ass and said, the fuck with him. Bang, 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 bang. And some will say, I don't care. Then some will say, well, that's not right. She shouldn't have shot him if he wasn't trying to hurt her. You're entitled to your opinion. But there comes a point when you have to take responsibility for your part in dealing with people. That's my message today. That you cannot continue to go on a path that is detrimental to your spirit, to your health, to your wealth, to your everything. You don't like it, you don't feel good about it, stop it. Just stop it. You cannot keep giving out food, then stop it. You cannot keep letting them use the phone, making long distance phone calls, spending the night, using up water, showering, whatever the situation is. You tell the person kindly, whoever it is, I cannot afford to take care of you. I cannot afford to give you money. I cannot afford to loan you money. I cannot afford to let you spend the night. I cannot do it. You see, this was an exacerbated situation. You hear the relative saying he took money from her, so I'm going to go with the latter. He 9 times out of 10 had a drug problem, substance abuse problem. He probably came and went out of her house, went in her pocketbook, cookie jar, whatever, knew where to find it. Had he not been there, we wouldn't be talking about Miss Mary Jordan today. I got a feeling she just shot him on spot. Got tired. Because you got to ask yourself, why would they arrest her, then bind it over to the grand jury? They had to have seen evidence that it was unprovoked, her shooting him. Then she shot him more than one time. That shows rage, anger. And we've seen cases when it was self-defense. Somebody was fighting, pulling hair, stabbing, whatever, and a person was able to get the better of the victim. The perpetrator, and they shot back, stabbed, whatever, and they stabbed multiple times or shot multiple times. What happened in that house? Had he been staying with her full-time, part-time? Had he taken something? Did she confront him about taking something? Did she confront him about the living arrangement? Did she tell him, I don't want you here anymore? He became irate, upset, wouldn't leave. Did she ask him to leave? What took place the day he was shot? And why was she arrested? Because usually arrest means detectives found fault in you. I'm going to spin a story, and then I'm going to try to check out of here. Queen's always got a story, does she not? A story made the news in Knoxville about 3 years ago. And it was a African-American female, older, had a disagreement with her nephew, I believe. Nephew or grandson, something like that too. And this guy was probably younger than this guy. And he had people running in and out of the old lady's house. And she must have had words with him and the people telling him, I don't want these people in my house, okay? So they're going back and forth. He pulls out a gun. Or I can't remember what. She put out a gun. I believe she put out a gun and started shooting or something. Maybe shooting in the air or shooting something. So, long story short, the grandson got arrested, if I'm not mistaken, for abuse or whatever. So I was talking about this case with somebody who allegedly knew him or knew of him. And this person was a male. And he was defending the young guy, saying, you just don't know the relative, the older lady, she's crazy. She pops off. She gets mad easily, blah, blah, blah. He's really an okay dude. And I told this person, I said, let me explain something to you. Why are you defending somebody who, one, is a grown man living in an older woman's house? That's number one. Number two, he's got company there, meaning they don't live there. Their address ain't on the mailbox. They don't get mail there. They're not her family. She asked him allegedly to make the people leave her house, and he didn't. So she had every right to say to him, I want these people to leave. And even if she said it rudely, cussed him out, cussed the kids out, young men out, then get the fuck out. How about that? You don't like what's going on in somebody's house, then get out. A grown man had no business staying with the woman in the first place. So as I told this certain fool, you're sitting here defending him when he's got all this riffraff running up in this woman's house. They're probably smoking weed and doing all type of shit, drinking. And she tells him, hey, I don't want these people in my house. I want these people to leave, whatever. You can't say she didn't have a right to tell the grandson, nephew, whatever, that she want these people out. She said she want them out. Then they need to get the fuck out. Who are you as an outsider to say what the hell's been going on in her house? You don't live there. Who's to say this wasn't a daily occurrence? People running in and out of our house, using the bathroom, going in the refrigerator, hell, taking a shower, anything, crashing there, sleeping in another room. See, you don't know because you're not there. You like this person, so you're defending that person and saying, oh, she's the type that like to get crunk and go off. Who cares? If that lady wanted to walk outside right now, butt naked down the street, that's her choice. She want to sit on the front porch naked, her choice. Walk in the backyard naked, her choice. What do you all have to do with it? Nothing. That's right. It's her house. So if she was the type to get irate, crunk, drunk, show out, that is nobody's concern. It's her house. And that's the point of being a homeowner or renter. You invite other people into your space. They don't agree with how you're living. Then they should get the fuck out. That's the point of having your own. You could do as you see fit. Nobody has to agree with the way you hung the curtains. If you want the windows up in the dead of winter, you want to have 5 cats, 5 dogs, that's your business. And that's what this grown-ass black man should have understood about the auntie grandmama, not this story, but the one I'm speaking of. You didn't like how you were living in her house. She got upset, irate, whatever the situation is, because this is all he said, she said, then you should have left her house. You had no business pulling out a gun and shooting and acting a fool. And that, hell yeah, that's why you got arrested. And they favored with that old black lady. Now, in this case I'm speaking of, they didn't favor the black lady. Obviously, detectives found fault. The district attorney, she shot him, and it obviously was not self-defense. I don't know. I wasn't there. Could there be a mistake made? Could be. I'm not here to say what happened in this home, but something jumped off of this lady to feel the need to shoot at another human being. Almost a 20-year difference in age. 30 years, rather. He's 38. Am I getting that right? 38, 76. Really about 40 years, excuse me. So really, she's old enough to be his damn grandmama, which she was. But you understand what I'm saying? You have to be careful in being nice to people, extending the olive branch, allowing people to stay in your home. And of course, Granny could have been a hellraiser. Granny could have been mean. But there's no excuse for you stealing her money. That's a whole different subject matter. Even if she was a nasty old lady, was highly critical. You just needed a place to stay. At some point, you should say to yourself, this is not working out, and I need to leave my grandmother's home. If you were not paying bills, you were not adding anything to the table, you had no business being there. And the grandmother should at some point told him, I need you to remove yourself. If he didn't remove himself, she should have kindly walked away, went into a room, locked herself in a room, or walked outside, went and got inside of a car or a neighbor's house, and dialed 911 and specified who she is, the situation at hand, and I need officers here to remove this person from my home. They're not a legal resident. They don't pay rent. They're not on the lease. I want them out of here. That's how you do that. Because there's times you can exacerbate a situation by elevating your mouth, your voice, cussing, fussing, going off. Next thing you know, they're jumping you, hurting you, stabbing you. and then you're unalived. Because you don't know people, you don't know what to set people off, even if they're in the wrong. People have been unalived by people because they confronted them about something. So if he's on drugs or drunk or whatever, he's not somebody you want to be confronting anyway about anything. Get out, don't eat this, don't open the potato chips, whatever. He had no business there. And frankly, even if he was a nice person, I just don't feel people, that's just me because of how I've raised and how I've been living. I just don't see grown people living together. That's just me. I see it. I know of grown people living with their parents. That is their choice. But I believe in privacy. I believe in everyone having his or her own private space. And to me, you cannot have privacy in a house where I can hear water running and hear you flush the toilet. Checkmate. If I can hear you using the bathroom, I can hear you urinating, I can hear you opening the refrigerator door, I can hear your conversation, then there is no privacy. Whether you two get along, 3 of you get along, however many are in the house, I don't think it's a good idea. I get it. Some people need care. They need a caregiver. They need someone checking in on them. They need someone, nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it does not work. And as you see in this situation here, it did not work for this 38-year-old man living with his 76-year-old grandmother. I won't doubt that this was an exacerbating situation. It probably had been going on for years, him living and coming and going, things missing, money missing. He probably had became irate, belligerent with her, probably has put his hands on her, pushed her, shoved her, and she stood by and took it. There may have been police reports, police calls to the residents. Don't know, didn't hear that. But just imagine all of the above. Police calls, interaction with the law enforcement, breaking windows, tearing up stuff in the house, because this is how ignorant behavior can get with people who are on drugs, people who are useless, lifeless, on substances, alcoholics, or just violent. They tear up your shit, tear up stuff, then walk out, then come back, got keys, you can't get the key back, you ain't got the money to change the lock. I hear all kinds of whack stories. Because you have to know the people you're fooling with. You have to know, maybe I don't need to be dealing with them. I don't need them in my house. They don't need a key to my house. I don't need to be giving them money. I don't need to be loaning them money. They don't need to be walking a dog, a cat, nothing. Hey, I see you at Walmart. I throw up my hand. How you doing, grandson? Hey, granny. And then I get on back to my house. And if it's to the point where you can't trust your grandson to be in your house as a visitor, then so be it. He can't come back. He can't visit. He can't bring friends. Can't bring a girlfriend, boyfriend, nothing. You hear these stories all the time of people robbing the elderly, taking their money, taking money from their family members, going in the checking account, stealing more money than what they were supposed to get out, having the passcode, PIN code, password. I hear it all the time. And at some point, you have to tell an elderly person, middle-aged person, stop it. Put their ass out. They can't come back. They can't have a key. If that means hell, you got to go move somewhere else, find somewhere else to fucking live so they don't come down and hunt you down and come try to climb through a window or break your damn door down. Call and get some help. Because there's a reason why he wasn't living with his own damn parents. Because they don't want his ass. Now, are they around living? Don't know. But the point is, what is that 40-year-old man doing with this woman in her house? Why is he stealing from her? Because he was using her and she allowed it. Because a person can't rob you 2 times. If they're not breaking and entering, you gave them access to enter the home and snoop around and dig in your pocketbook, cookie jar, under the mattress, whatever. Now she's out on bond and waiting for a grand jury indictment. This is bad. Almost 80. Who the hell wants to be standing in front of the grand jury at almost 80 years of age? And you can see she was in court crying, upset, probably has remorse for killing her grandson, Maybe she felt like this was the only way to stop him, get rid of him, which we know killing him was not the method. If he wasn't, exciting any harm towards her. I don't know. I wasn't there. But she should have called somebody to say, I need this person served a restraining order. He won't stop coming by. He keeps banging on the door, trying to crawl through windows, whatever was going on. So somebody could tell him, sir, your grandmother loves you, but she does not want you at her house. She does not want you calling her. She does not want you on the front porch, back porch. She don't want you banging on the door. She don't want you banging on the windows. She don't even want you 50 feet of her house. Stay in other direction. Go in other direction. Don't even walk by her house. Leave her alone, sir. And we're only going to warn you one time. Somebody should have stood in the gap for this lady. You saw she didn't have cognitive reasoning. Maybe she had dementia, whatever. She was letting him stay. See, I don't know all the things that was going on, but they said it was obvious something was going on with her in court. Somebody should have stood in the gap for this older lady. Now, we have people who are just kind-hearted. They're nice. They feel guilty. They're always catering to people. He's in trouble. He's on drugs. He needs a place to stay. She needs a place to stay. That's my baby, my sister, my brother, my cousin. I love her, my friend, my lover, ex-baby daddy, ex-husband. I've heard all the stories of why people take people in. Sometimes it does not work. And you have to be the judge of that story. Because as I have said in talking about Wendy Williams' story, everything's about cause and effect. Her story, a lot of her problems is from self. She put herself in the situation she got herself in because she was doing self-harm. As I said, drinking, getting high exacerbates health problems. That's willful intent. Nobody putting a gun up to your head. Grandma, you continuously dealt with this grandson. If he was wayward, belligerent, lazy, whatever, you continue to deal with him, and one thing begets another. You have to own your part in the story. We all have to own what we do, how we talk, our responses, impulses in dealing with folks. You can actually care for a person. You're praying they're going to change. You keep bringing them around. They keep coming around, pop up, But they ain't serving you no purpose. And you continue to deal with them. We have got to stop this behavior because you are not preserving self. You're causing yourself a headache, aneurysm, stroke, heart disease by dealing with these people. They don't care nothing about us. And there comes a point where we have to tell ourselves, they don't care for me. They don't love me. They only come around, they want something. They only come around when they need something. They are self-sufficient, grown. They need to take care of themselves. No more money. No more giving them a place to live. No more letting them sleep on the couch, spare bedroom, giving them the ATM card. No, 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 and no. No, you cannot come here and eat a fucking sandwich. Because eating a sandwich leads to, I'm sleepy, I'm tired. Can I put my feet up? Can I go in the spare room? Next thing you know, tomorrow they're bringing in a trash bag full of dirty clothes. Now they're using the washing machine. Now they're taking a shower. Now they're staying there. Now they're bringing in Pookie, Ray Ray, Bubba, Shamiqua, Rhonda. Do you see where I'm going? So what started out as a favor, you now have a whole roommate that don't do shit in your house. That's bringing trouble to your house. Police officers, probation officers, parole officers. This is how it gets out of control. And then the person's sitting back looking like, how in the hell did I get into this? Oh, here comes a grandbaby. Here comes a new baby, old baby. Where does child come from? Oh, she say I'm the baby daddy. I've heard the stories. I talk to all walks of life. I was out last night taking care of business, listening to crazy nonsense from people in backed up, jacked up situations. Met 2 people last night, need to move. Lease is terminated, blah, 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 this and that. Gotta move. Situations with some fraud. That was a wild story. I don't even know if I believe half of the shit that one guy was talking about. But the point is, everybody's got problems, got something they're going through. But we can exacerbate stuff by the company we keep. doing favors. We're all out here living, struggling, trying to maintain, trying to stay above this ground. But there comes a point when we have to say, I can no longer keep dealing with these people who do not wish me well. They do not have my back. They do not support me. When I need something, I'm in trouble. They are not there for me. They can't even offer me $50 on a light bill, phone bill. They can't give me $50 of gas. They can't do shit for me. They can't even call just to say, hello, I was thinking about you. Hey, you want to go out to eat? You want something to eat? Can I bring you a soda pop? Can I bring you an ice cream cone? As my mother used to say growing up, you don't want to fool with nobody that can't even buy you a hot dog. And that's true. And it's not about always getting something from people, but let's be truthful. Do you really want to be dealing with people that are always taking, and you can't get nothing back in return? Because there's going to be a day when you need something. And as you see with this case with Wendy Williams, she's a perfect example. Multi-millionaire who doesn't even have access to her own fucking bank account. Multi-millionaire. Fraud on American Express card, flagged, bank seized the money, has a guardian in a treatment facility allegedly, and she can't even have access to her own money, drive a car, write a check, go shopping, walk out the door, take a swim, walk a dog, do nothing. All because of her choices she made in life. Husband, ex-husband, still trying to milk her account, wanting alimony. This is what's out here in the world. And as I said in that commentary pertaining to her, some may feel like it's retribution, karma, because of her behavior on her talk show, how she talked bad about people. You're entitled to your opinion. But we do know she didn't take care of herself. She did not do that. And that's not including the health problems, you understand? So you fast forward over here in a little town in Alabama. A woman has been nice to her grandson, I'm assuming, and then she has unalived him, shot him multiple times, and now her case has been bound over to the grand jury. Will they forfeit this, give her probation? She gives a plea, has to check in with a probation officer for a couple of years, pay fees, fines, court costs, and keep it moving. Or will she have to go to trial? And what will her defense be? We will have to wait and see what happened. But this is a telltale sign of why you have to own your part in the universe. You cannot be nice to everybody. You cannot lend an arm and a hand and a foot and a leg, because the folks will chop you up into tiny pieces, literally, and throw you out to the wolves. And I see it every day with people. I'm a living witness myself. You cannot be nice to folks. You can't do favors for folks. You can't extend yourself, because in the end, when it's your turn, you can't get it back. You'll be out here homeless and they will give two fucks, and they wouldn't even offer you a Burger King meal, knowing you ain't got a place to sleep, a car to drive, nothing. And that's what's wrong with people. They just take. And then they'll sit up. Oh, you know, but I was going through something and I need a place to stay. And I needed this and This is why grown people need their own place. This is why I recommend children going off to school and going away to college and learn how to wash clothes, wash dishes, navigate on their own, get a car, pay their own car insurance. If you decide you want to pay the car note, then let them pay their own car insurance. Let them pay for their own damn gas. They buy their own damn clothes. Show them to be independent, so you don't look up and have a 38-year-old person living in your house. This is why young people are still at home with their parents. Then they become adults still living at home with their parents and grandmothers and aunties, because they've been coddled. let them go about, come back home because the job didn't work out, the relationship didn't work out. You know how many times I've seen grown black men back at home with their mothers and aunties and cousins and sisters and brothers because they live with a woman and the woman wanted them out the relationship, or they decided to leave. Now they're going to live with their relative. Why the fuck you don't go get your own damn apartment or house? That is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. Sorry, incoming call. Oh, it didn't work out with her. She got mad at me. She broke up with me, blah, blah, blah. She heard I was cheating. She saw I was cheating. Duh, duh, duh. I went back to my mama's house. I went to go live with my brother. I went to live with my sister. I went to go live with my son. I went to go live with my cousin, my auntie, the butcher, the baker, candlestick maker. You a fool to take them in. What happened? You got caught cheating. Well, what you want to do? What you want me to do? Well, I just wonder if I can stay with you for a little while till I get on my feet and get a place. Man, you ain't never had a place. See, that's how you talk to a person that you know ain't never kept a place to live. You ain't never kept a place. You ain't never paid rent. You ain't never had a lease. Now, what you going to do over here in my house? So whatever reason they put you out, it's probably going to carry on over to my house. That's probably what happened with the Gr.Son. He's probably stayed a multitude of places at 38 years of age. Never paid rent, never had a lease, probably never had a car, driver license, full-time job, education, schooling, trade, nothing. House to house, house to house, house to house. And all these people coddled him for him to end up robbing his own damn grandmama, and she laid him down on the ground. Checkmate. Be the captain of your ship, the orchestrator of your life. That's the best advice I can give you, and I speak from experience. Cut these wayward ass folks off. Don't nobody care that y'all came from the same mama, grandmama to Gr.Son. That has nothing to do with preservation of life. Because right now, a 76-year-old lady has to go to court for killing her own grandson. Who wants to be in that type of predicament? But this is what happens when we put ourselves in jacked up situations, continue to be in jacked up situations, all because we say we care for them or we feel bad. Could have been the other way around. Could have been grandmama laying down on the ground. Because I do not know if this guy was violent. Don't know, hadn't heard anything about him. Was looking for research, researching to see what I could hear about him. I haven't learned anything, but I don't believe that elderly lady was lying that spoke in this audio that he had robbed her 2 times. And if he robbed her 2 times that this woman is speaking of, he's probably stolen from her more than twice. He's probably robbed from other people. Stay woke. Probably has a criminal background, stealing, forgery, theft, whatever. There's no telling what he's done, what he had been doing at the time of death. And now elderly lady has to go to possibly to trial. Hopefully she and the district attorney will come to some agreement of plea because they already see she's almost 80. What would be the point in sending her to penitentiary prison when 9 times out of 10, she's probably had a lot of problems out of this man. They probably had a lot of back and forth, verbal belligerency. I won't doubt it. Because I just don't see her just waking up, shooting him, and then she shot him multiple times. As I said, that shows rage. Now, if they can show she has dementia, she's not aware of her faculties, once again, it could probably work out some type of plea, put her in some type of facility, nursing home or assisted living facility, or she goes to live with another relative. I don't know. We'll see what the state learns about her mental capacity, the evidence, what type of person he was before death, and the rendering. 2-part live. U.S. airman unalived himself in front of the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. Has a past with some type of religious sect from the East Coast growing up. what happened to his mindset for him to kill himself. He claimed that he did not like what was going on with the U.S. aiding Israel. He also mentioned about freeing the Palestinians. But should he have gone this far? I do not condone unaliving self, because I had a relative who unalived himself many years ago, and it was very traumatic for me when I found out he had killed himself. And I do not condone anyone committing suicide. You have no reason to commit suicide. But many people do for various reasons. But this reason to me was selfish. Just like when my cousin killed himself years ago, that was selfish. And you leave an impact on people when you unalive yourself. And this guy did not realize that. He was more concerned about what was going on abroad versus what his legacy he would leave behind and the effect on the people who liked him and cared about him. So how do you weigh the two? Because in the end, as I said, you don't have any control over what is going on abroad. You don't even have control over what's going on in the United States politically, period. But why not be a voice for those people, the Palestinians, instead of killing yourself? And you may not, like I said, have been able to reach those people there. They may not even know who you are, but you could still be a voice here in the United States. And you took the coward's way out. Because I don't have to agree with what they're doing abroad. You didn't have to agree with what they're doing abroad. You didn't have to agree with what the United States government was doing, the military, but you did willfully sign up to join the military. And that's where I have a problem with his decision to unalive himself, number one. Number two, the method he chose. Number three, he was going to be leaving his term of duty in May. And he could have never ventured back into the military and voiced all his concerns and complaints publicly on a national platform instead of unaliving himself. So that is very puzzling and baffling to me, because he didn't have the right to kill himself. And he told God that he didn't favor himself, didn't love himself. And he basically told God he made a mistake. And as they say, God don't make mistakes. He should not have done that. And now he has to stand atone with God for unaliving himself. And I don't think the end result on that side is favorable for him. All I can say, in the afterlife, he better pray that God is just. Just saying. Prayers for the war abroad, that there will be ceasefire, that there'll be no more wreckage, unaliving of civilians, children, women, men. Prayers for our service men and women who serve stateside and abroad, also involved in the war. Prayers for them. And prayers for this grandmother in Pritchard, Alabama, that she does not have to serve time in prison. As I said, I was not there. I do not know what happened. Some may say, well, you're judging the situation according to her age. Well, I'm judging it according to age somewhat and what this relative had to say, that there has been an ongoing feud and he had been stealing from her allegedly. And the one thing I found interesting that I did not mention in this commentary, the relative said that he had a hold on her. And that was a strong terminology. He had a hold on her. So what you have to ask yourself in that commentary, hold how? She felt threatened by him? Or she had a deep love for him that she couldn't let him go and walk out into the universe and do his own thing? That she felt obligated. Because we know by feeling obligated, you can also hinder your own preservation of life and end up unalived. And many people have. because they would not leave people alone and walk away from a bad situation. Prayers for Miss Mary Jordan, Pritchard, Alabama. When I get an update pertaining to her case, I will bring it to you. Any other updates pertaining to the passing of Mr. Bushnell, I'll bring you that update because I don't know when services will transpire pertaining to his passing. But I'll bring you an update. And any update pertaining to the war itself, any ceasefire, or I'll bring you an update. As I said before at the beginning of this live stream, I have not followed the war since over a year ago. And I do not try to, talk about politics and these type of situations because they can get redundant and get quite ignorant. And it's just in my reading of what was transpiring with the war itself, trying to get an understanding of how it all started, I became perturbed, in reading the information about the Gaza war and everything. And I just chose not to discuss it because I can tell when certain things are winded and lengthy and how something began, it can be a firestorm of conversation in the chat and bickering back and forth of who did what. And I don't like going down the rabbit hole like that. It's just a subject matter I chose not to discuss because, as I said, I usually don't talk about anything pertaining to America and war and politics. I try to steer away from those topics because I don't want to get ignorant. And like I said, everybody's entitled to his or her opinion. But those are just subject matters I try to steer clear of because it can just get, out of control very fast. So I just don't discuss those topics on my channel. Thank you all so much for tuning in. God bless all of you. Once again, prayers for Miss Pritchard and prayers to the decedent's family, Mr. Bushnell, who is no longer alive. He unalived himself in front of the embassy, Israeli embassy in the United States in Washington, D.C. Prayers to his family. This will probably be a winded discussion down the road of servicemen, women, their mental capacity. And we also need to talk about that somehow. Are the right people serving in the military? Because we have seen the abuse of women in the military, abuse of people in power over women in the military, abuse of men on men abuse in the military, homosexuality in the military, people coming out in the military, crimes committed by servicemen and women in the military while active. And then you have this case right here. A man still active, few months shy of getting out and then unaliving himself. So there's commentary I've been wanting to touch on probably a year or so ago with the young lady who was found brutally murdered in Texas, that there's too much going on that's visible, that gets overlooked. One, because it's men involved. Two, government, military, and it's being pushed under the rug. And abuse of another service person should not be taking place. And no one should be upholding any other military person hurting another military person. I don't care what their position is. And somebody needs to start bringing the hammer down because that needs to stop. And the fact that a young lady was murdered on the base and nobody saw anything and witnessed anything, no cameras, I find that just outrageous. It's truly outrageous. But are some of the service people not equipped to handle, let's say, going to war? Because a lot of bad things can happen, period, on American bases, abroad. We've heard horrible stories. But going to war, perhaps these people who join the military become disgruntled with what they're seeing and hearing by their counterparts and officials and supervisors, people that are over them, and they lose their way. And they don't want to talk about it naturally to people in the service for fear they'll go back and say something. And I understand that because they're there and they don't want retaliation. But perhaps some people are not equipped to be in the military. And definitely going to war, because going to war is totally different than just having some other type of issues with other service people and supervisors. You're talking about going into war and unaliving people, and possibly you getting hurt and unalived, seeing your counterparts unalived, hurt, injured. That's a lot to deal with. And I don't think we understand that because we're not in that predicament. And we've heard of how many people have come back from overseas fighting, and they are not mentally stable because of what they witnessed while fighting. And nobody really can prepare you for what you're going to see. They can show you films. They can show you what happened to someone afterwards. They can show you scenes from war, what the buildings look like, the people, the children. But it's not the same when you're actually on the ground and watching people walking by, wounded, bleeding, seeing unalived children, tanker trucks, shot up and turned over, and buildings falling down, burning. I don't think nobody can even imagine what that would be like visually there. And you're experiencing it at that time. And I would see that would have an effect on a human being. But we need the military. Maybe not go to war per se, but we need the military. And frankly, I'm going to say this before I leave. We really need the military to walk the streets of America. Yeah, I said that. In the worst cities where we have the most crime, such as Memphis, Tennessee, Chicago, maybe that's what we need. The presence of the military. Because obviously, regular patrolmen, it ain't working. And we have so much crime here stateside. I mean, the crime in Memphis, Chicago, Atlanta, the crime is off the charts. I mean, it's not even safe, seriously, to just breathe air in these locales. You are just not safe. I see so many articles, news clips that come up in the YouTube queue coming out of Memphis that it's just absolutely ridiculous. Atlanta, the general Atlanta area, metro Atlanta, it's just all day, every day, something, something, something. It's like, we need some help here. Homelessness, no proper housing, mental illness, violent crime, immigration issue, violent migrants living in the States, busing a migrant from place to place, crime, sadists. We have our own problems. And it is time that we worry about the people here. Cater to our military people here, veterans. Cater to the homeless in some type of fashion to get them mental health, get them housing, maybe get them a job, skill, a trade, to where they could be sufficient and take care of themselves. Proactive. Not necessarily coddling, but be proactive in helping them. And everything starts from birth to grade school, high school, to graduating. And if you don't have people rearing you, you will possibly be one of these stories we talk about. We all can make mistakes, get into trouble, but you can also better yourself from a bad situation. But then the flip side is you can get yourself caught up into something where you can't better yourself. You catch a charge, there is no going back to school. There is no getting a job, because now you're fighting for your life in the court system. This is why we start with the children, try to rear them properly. This is why if you're not ready to be a parent, a guardian, don't take on the job. Don't have kids. We don't have to keep having these horrific stories of people walking out into the universe, hurting people, unaliving self, mass shootings. See, all this starts from childhood. Don't nobody get this. You're rearing people to become the walking wounded. And then everybody sits up crying and moaning about what happened, why they do this, when there probably were signs that something was wrong early on, but they were coddled, they were ignored, pushed under the rug. Can't keep doing this. We can't keep doing this. People are really in dire straits here in the United States mentally. They are just not equipped to walk around, breathe, work, drive a car, teach. We have a lot of mentally ill people. And that's the thing about the world. You don't know people. You don't know what they got going on up here. You're just learning them as you go. And then you hear that horrible scenario, such as what happened at the embassy, what happened in Alabama, missing kids. A lot of things are right in front of you, and people just ignore the signs. And then everybody wants to jump up and go talk to the news once the SHIT hit the fan. When you saw the unraveling of a human being and the circumstances, and you didn't do a damn thing. And we have got to stop doing that too. Being complacent, not standing up for people, the elderly, disabled, the children. We see people are acting out. Offer, as they say, a hand up. Hey, I think you're struggling. I think you need some help. Hey, I think you need to see somebody. Let me get you some help. And naturally, when you're grown, you don't have to take the help. May not want it, may not acknowledge you have a problem. Can't make a person get help. But there's nothing wrong with suggesting. And as I said, everything starts from in the womb. So if you are somebody out here realizing you don't want to be a parent, you're not ready for being a parent, please don't. You really don't want to keep an animal. Please don't. Can't take care of yourself? Well, you can't take care of 5 cats, 6 dogs, 8 parakeets. Own your part. We all have to do it. We have to own our part. The part we play with people, circumstances, children, pets, dealing with the world. We have to own our part. Prayers for our children, our veterans. Prayers for those abroad, the hostages. Prayers for a ceasefire. Prayers that these entities can just say, we've done enough damage. We've got to stop. Woo! Prayers for our national government. The homeless. The migrant situation. Prayers for Queen. She sure needs it. Prayers for all of us. Prayers for YouTube. Amen. Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $, Big Angie, 129. Cash App, stickers, and chats are always welcome during the live stream. Enjoyed this 2 hours with you all. 2-part live. Please go back to the beginning of this video to get the said information and sources. Check my community page for my questions, polls on Wendy Williams and self-care. Please take the polls. I always encourage everyone to take the polls. And once again, prayers for Wendy Williams, that she can overcome whatever it is she's going through, and parents, family can help aid her and get her the help and get guardianship back of her, because she needs to be around her family. Everyone needs to have family if they can. And some people don't have support. So she's very fortunate that she has active supporters. So hopefully they can reach some type of agreement with the courts or whomever and get the guardianship lifted, and the judge hands over guardianship to a family member. Thank you so much for joining me. You have been listening to The Vault. Excel. Thank you. Bye-bye.